All right. Well, first of all, welcome, Pastor Brian. Thank you so much for taking the time, speaking to us. Welcome to our Heart and Soul Night. 21 is on our way. 20 has been pretty crazy. But first of all, how are you? How is Pastor Bobby? How is your family? How are things going?
No, big picture, we're good, thanks. It's definitely an interesting time for all of us, you included. And, we're navigating it and, seeking the Lord and believing to see our church come through super strong all over the globe. So including obviously in Germany. So yeah, it is what it is, and we're going to make the best of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how is the church from where you're sitting, from your perspective? How do you feel like church has been coping? Our church has been coping with this season.
Well, it's an interesting season, as we all know. So 2020 had all of the fallout from COVID and everything else related to that, like economies and the real things that hit people, personally firsthand. And then we're battling the challenge of making sure people stay committed to the idea of community and, understanding the power of brotherhood, sisterhood, realizing we need each other as opposed to social distancing. I think it's easy for social distancing to just become distancing.
Yeah.
And so I just really feel like we've never needed each other more. That's true for us as lead pastors, city pastors, and it's true for all the people of our church. So I really pray for our church. I really pray for all the people in our church over there in Zurich and Constance and Dusseldorf and, well, wherever else you're meeting. I'm not sure whether you've got anything started yet in Austria. A certain pandemic kind of, has gotten in the way. And then big picture, we've had some challenges in our church globally, which is a part of life. So we've just got to navigate it and keep moving forward. And I'm full of faith for the future.
Yeah. So you must have spoken to lots of pastors, different pastors, not just in our church, but other pastors from other big churches. What has the conversation been like? Like, if you talk about what are some of the things that we've learned, or that you're still there? Oh, there you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I just turned my volume up a little.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Have you lost me?
Yeah. No, we're there. I was just wondering about the conversations that you are having. Sometimes I feel like I want to be a fly on the wall when you speak to other pastors and other leaders, just about what they feel, what this season has done, or is there any lessons that you think the church has learned from this season, things that will maybe potentially change in the future?
Well, it's a great question. And to be honest with you, I think if it proves one thing, it's that everything's temporal. We can't put our trust at all in anything related to this world. That's why the Bible calls riches, for example, uncertain riches. Who could have imagined 12 months ago that the global economy, would take such a massive hit? And so we've got to keep our faith, our trust in the right place, which obviously is Jesus. When it comes to other pastors, I just feel like we're all got the same challenge. And that is, the importance of keeping people engaged with an expectation people won't become disengaged. I think we've learned a lot through online church in terms of possibilities with that. But I'm old-fashioned enough to believe that there is nothing that takes the place of actual physical gathering, being together, the atmosphere in a room, the faith in a room when we're worshiping and praising God, and through the power of the preaching with people amening. So I'm still a great, great believer in that. And I've got real faith to believe that we're going to get back to that, and we're going to see our best days ahead. But also use the opportunity of reaching even more people. I mean, you guys, you can reach the whole German-speaking world through online church. And so, it's a great opportunity. But those people who are part of our church, in the cities and towns where our church is, my faith is that they will really, really value as I've been saying already, you know, the importance of connection and community. And like I say, there's nothing quite like being in the room.
Yeah. Do you think some people, there's a danger of some people maybe have, maybe become lazy or fallen away, or they haven't valued the community as much, and now that we are allowed to start gathering, what's your feeling? Like, how long is it going to take to go back to normal?
Well, let's put it this way. I'm used to, here in Australia, doing and being involved in and preaching in 5 services every Sunday.
Yeah.
Right now, I've been going along and doing an 8 a.m. service, which is played multiple times, and a 4:30 p.m. service, which is played multiple times. And so, for Bobby and I, over 40 years of doing this, week after week, month after month, year after year, that part of it's kind of cool. But I'm never going to be satisfied for that to be our future, because I know this is a season. That's all it is. It's a season. And if we can find good in the season, let's find the good in the season. If families have got closer, let's find the good in the season. If, we've realigned some of our values, well, let's find the good in that. But in the big picture of life, God's got more for us than this current reality.
Absolutely. So you talked about on Sunday, you talked about restoration, healing, and I loved how you talked about Nehemiah and how they were rebuilding the city. And I mean, that's what you're saying. And I love how you pointed out, next to, everyone had their piece of the wall, and next to him, and next to him, and next to him. I love that point, because it paints such a great picture of the church, So what is it going to take for us, because we don't want to walk into, for me at least, I don't want to walk into 21 with eyes closed. I want to be very aware of the fact that we will have to rebuild, that we will have to restore, that we will have to help people understand the culture again, of serving, of valuing Sunday church, of valuing the community together. What would you say would be some of those important things that we have to do or have to be mindful of when it comes to rebuilding and shaping the culture, restoring what was there?
Well, in the message you mentioned, I spoke about fraternity. Is there a German word for fraternity?
Fraternity. That's a good question now. I'll have to look that up. Is still there?
That's what it means. Yeah. What that means, fraternity, is brotherhood, sisterhood.
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, we talk about the medical profession, for example, as the medical fraternity. And it's such a valuable part of our Christian life, because it really describes people who have common interests and values. And so for us, I think that idea of brotherhood, sisterhood is so powerful. I love the fact that Jesus, when his mother and brothers came to visit him, but he began to speak of the people just around him and say, these are my brothers, these are my sisters, these are my mothers. And so I feel like it's important that everybody sees things that way and realizes that we need each other. And your point is that, also as a favorite point of mine about Nehemiah, when I read Nehemiah recently all the way through, that's just what struck me. It constantly talks about every single person building that wall, and then talks about who was next to him or next to them. And that is something that we cannot lose sight of. All of our lives are about something bigger than ourselves, and we can't get self-indulgent with our Christianity and our serving Jesus and our calling at a time like this. We need each other. I need you. Where would we be without Frummett and Joe? So we need you guys. You need me. Where would you be without me? Who knows? You'd be a rogue. And so, I really pray people don't lose their revelation of that.
Yeah. And I think so the best way of helping people is through constant teaching, constant reminding, constant conversation, and helping people to see the big picture again, hey?
Yeah. Well, again, in that message last Sunday that you referred to, I talked about the fact that ultimately, I can tell you what to do, but that's not going to work. People have to have a personal revelation. They have a personal revelation of Jesus, of their calling, of their commitment to their brothers and their sisters. And so that's what we have to believe for. Personal resolve or responsibility comes out of a personal revelation. And you guys are building the church not because, it's a career. You're doing it because of a revelation. You're doing what God called you to do. And that means even in the toughest seasons, you're going to turn up. And even when you face the greatest struggles, you're going to turn up. And I just really pray that, especially with millennials and younger people, that we don't lose sight of that importance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. When it comes to raising up leaders, so, we're talking about rebuilding the church. We've got numerous new locations, as you said. We've got in Vienna, we're in Cologne, there's more locations we want to go to. And, obviously Cologne, yeah.
Cologne. I just
Cologne,
thought that was like men's perfume. I didn't know that was a place.
It's quite close to Düsseldorf, even though the Düsseldorf people and the Cologne people, they don't really like each other, but it's not far from each other.
Actually, I've flown over Cologne. I know exactly where it is.
It's true. It's, everyone knows Cologne. The big dome, the huge, massive church that's there. But
well, you've never taken me there. I've never been there.
Well, you were very happy to be in Düsseldorf. We chilled in Düsseldorf. Remember that?
I love Düsseldorf. I actually love Düsseldorf. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful city. Yeah,
it really is. It really is. Yeah. But so when it comes to raising up leaders, obviously, so the one thing is you want to start locations, you want to grow, but you also need to be always aware that when you expand, that you do it in strength. So when it comes to raising up leaders, I think our house and the church that you and Pastor Bobby have built, one of the, I think, most amazing things about our church is the amount of leaders that have come out from under your leadership, but not just like strong leaders, because oftentimes I feel like, of churches, and there's so many great speakers and preachers out there. But then if you look at our church, it's more than that. There's so many calibers and layers of leaders. So what would you say for our leaders in Germany when it comes to, raising up teams, raising up people? What are some of the keys that you would say is the most important thing when it comes to raising up strong, confident leaders that will take their place? What are some of the keys that quickly you could give that you think would help to raise up strong leaders?
Wow. Well, I think possibly the most important thing is modeling. When I was a younger person, there were certain apostolic type ministries around in those days in my part of the world, New Zealand, Australia. And there was something inside me that thought, I want to be like those guys one day. And, I look back now and what God's done these days has superseded what I saw as inspiring by multiple times over. But I feel like leadership is best modeled, and it's contagious. And when people get around a leadership culture, they tend to, the leader in them tends to emerge, and they tend to rise up. And I think the church is a very, very, very evident example of that, because churches where there's not really leadership, just, maybe people in positions with titles versus people who are inspiring leaders, you'll see one thing doesn't really raise leadership, the other thing does. And we are blessed because God has constantly raised up for us once in a generation leaders all over the world. And I look at our church in Europe in particular, and I look at something that spiritually, when I was a kid, we looked at Europe as a bit of a spiritual wasteland. We all know the religious past and the massive cathedrals, but there wasn't a whole lot happening on the ground in terms of significant churches. And then you look today, and for us, obviously in Germany and Paris and France and in Spain and Portugal, and I can just keep, in Holland, I can just keep going. And you look at the leadership, and I would call it apostolic leadership that God has raised up. And it's a gift, it's a grace, it's an anointing that we're blessed with, because I really genuinely feel like that's not human. You can't raise that. I feel like God has graced our church with that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when it comes to leadership, then, you said you've got so many strong leaders, you raise them up, and it's an apostolic calling. But then you've got the other, well, not the issue, but the importance of unity, So you've got strong leaders, you've got lots of people that have ideas, have vision, are creative, want to go out there and conquer the world. But at the same time, you've got to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction. What would be a key for us to stay, in unity while, we want to go forward, we want to be creative. You don't want to limit people. You want to allow them to fly. But at the same time, we want to go all in the same direction.
Yeah, well, I think the greatest uniter, unifying thing is vision. Bob and I, our marriage, we've been married well over 40 years now. And the unifying factor for us has been, apart from the fact we actually quite like each other, the actual unifying thing has been vision. And I think it's the same in a church. When people buy in, I don't mean literally buy in, but when people basically decide this vision, I'm part of this vision, that unifies us, because all of a sudden it's in season, out of season, good times, tough times, summertime, wintertime, and so that's where I feel like vision is so critical. And again, with unity, I think people have to have a revelation. Younger generations concern me, because I feel like the culture has become more selfish. I think with social media in particular, the culture has become far more opinionated, so quick to share opinion. And everyone's got a right to an opinion, but mostly it never builds anything. And so I really hope and pray that the unity that, I've witnessed and experienced in pretty well all the years of our ministry is something that's not lost on the younger generation. And that means sometimes being countercultural. Don't just go along with the culture, be counterculture. Decide you want to be part of the answer. And you understand the value, the biblical value of unity, because the Bible's very clear. That's where God commands blessing. And that blessing is for us together, collectively, but it's also for us individually. If we are committed to unity, then I believe, spiritually speaking, that it's a path to God's blessing.
So good, yeah. So if you could say one last thing to our church here in Germany, in Switzerland, in Austria, one thing you would like to just say to our leaders, or something that you would want from our leaders, or you wish we would all do, or something you want to say to them.
When I come to Germany, let me speak in English, which you do now. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
It's France where they, where you can't speak in English.
I know, but the Germans have always been far more futuristic than the French, let's be honest.
Let's be honest, yeah, we know that.
Hey, I love you guys. You're awesome.
Thank you. We love you too. Thank you so much for taking the time, hey?
Thank you. A pleasure, by the way. Yeah.
You too, thanks.